Hello and welcome to Voices of Enablement by GTM, an interview series focusing on the key issues affecting the enablement community today. It's a tough market right now. Organizations are cutting staff, pausing their investments in their go-to-marketing department. How do we make a compelling case for the value of enablement is the core question that we're seeking to answer. So our guest today is Felix. Felix is leading the global revenue enablement function at Plume Design, a SaaS platform for communication service providers. Welcome, Felix. Pleasure having you on the show. I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. I am Felix Jimenez Valeda. I am in sales enablement for the last 4 years, but I have an experience in sales for almost 8-9 years in inside sales, field sales, account executive, and now I am in Plume Design for the last 2 years. I started covering EMEA, and now I have more like a global role, and I'm supporting all the regions around the globe.
Absolutely. So I think since you've come from sales background, again, you have a vantage point on both the worlds. So I'm really excited on what you bring on this table. Cool. So I think let's kick this off. The very first question. I think it's a tough market right now. Companies are laying off, a lot of people, and enablement is seen as a cost center versus a force multiplier. So the very first question that I want to ask is like, how do you elevate the role of sales enablement with the C-suite when many of the support functions are being cut?
And that's a very good question. It's complicated, but since I am coming with a sales background, I am always applying here like a sales approach. Actually, the best way to elevate the role of sales enablement to the eyes of the C-level is by providing value and by providing an impact to the company bottom line. But the question is, how can you provide value to the C-level, right? That is quite complicated. Since I believe that sales enablement is a strategic role in the organization, let's have a strategic mindset. Let's have like a critical thinking, and let's care about what the C-level cares about. What is important for them? What is important for them at the first point is to achieve the company's goals, right? So from sales enablement, let's try to align all our projects, all our initiatives, all our programs towards those goals, okay? And then the second piece is like, we need to provide an impact, okay? We need to bring some measures regarding that impact, okay? So this is the first thing. We need to align to those companies' goals and then to provide metrics to provide a positive impact. But there's another angle here with the C-level's point of view, okay? There's another word which is going around the head of the C-levels the whole time. And that word is called risk, okay? Every single time they are thinking, what is the risk of saying yes? What is the risk of saying no? What is the risk of taking this decision? So are constantly evaluating the risk in every decision that they are making. So this is a perfect opportunity for sales enablement to bring the key attributes onto the table and how we can mitigate or diversify that risk that the C-level is holding, okay? So one of the key attributes from sales enablement is that we need to provide here agility, adaptability, okay? That we can bring a fast response coming from the changes and the shift from the market demands, okay? From the marketplace. This is something which is pure value to the C-level's eyes. So we said adaptability, flexibility. We also need to bring in here that sales enablement is a cost-effective team. That with the fewer resources, we are able to bring the best of our teams, okay? And last but not least, we need to play psychology here. In sales, we are the whole time teaching to our sales teams, like look into a champion inside of the organization. Also look for the business decision maker, the executive decision maker. And in sales enablement, every single time when we are talking to the C-level, we think that we are talking to executive decision maker, to a buying committee. And we need to take the C-level more as the champion, which is the internal promoter that is going to promote our projects, our initiatives, our programs around all the organization. So in summary and basically, we need to bring value and a positive impact to the C-level's eyes. And the best way is by aligning to their goals, but also with the current pains that they have, which is mitigating risk and also to show that we can be a cost-effective team inside of the organization.
Got it. Felix, you mentioned, again, just to summarize, like you said, aligning to the company's goals. Second is to have some metrics to measure. And third is nullify the risk that the CRO is talking about and not positioning your CRO or the leadership as the end buyers, but leveraging them as champions to drive those enablement programs. One question I have is, again, when we talk about the ROI of enablement, there are a lot of things that we can't measure. And this is another question that again I speak to a lot of enablement leaders, that okay, what are the metrics that we should keep in mind that align to the company goals. So can you talk to me about some of the metrics that you leverage or you measure at behind your sales enablement initiatives?
Yeah. Well, the first metric that everybody's gonna check is like the revenue. How much revenue, how much business they are closing. The second thing that the C-level and also sales leaders they are checking is like, okay, if you didn't close so much, how much pipeline have you generated? Okay, so we are checking the metrics around like the conversion rates, but also like the pipeline that has been generated in a specific point of time. Then you are drilling down, and you want to see the activity levels. Okay, the activity levels of engagement with new prospects, and also we want to check like what is the sales cycle, how long it took this deal to be closed. So there are many variables that we need to take into account, but these are the main ones. Okay, there are other metrics that we can think about, which is when we are introducing new tools, what is the adoption of new tools and what is the impact of those tools. Okay, but if we are gonna take it at the individual level, these are the main metrics that we are checking.
Got it. Then, again, talking about the lagging metrics as the end goal, which is to increase the revenue, increase the pipeline, and also leaning on the leading metrics such as adoption to meet those lagging metrics.
Mm-hmm. These are the main ones. Okay, this is the North Star in every single company. Then, depending on the company, depending on the internal ecosystem that you can find, you will need to adapt, and you will need to find different metrics to improve, okay, the performance of those individuals.
Felix, I have a question. So a lot of the enablement people that I speak to, right, what we do is we usually try to find a problem that, okay, how can we improve the, let's just take one competency that, we think we need to enable our salespeople on. Then the entire sales enablement initiative will be based on that competency. You run it for a couple of months and drive the adoption, and then we'll look at the outcome. So again, my question is, how do you measure the effectiveness of that particular, sales enablement initiative that you're running? So is this more on a I would say, like, because everything is getting integrated to Salesforce. So do you have a tool in place, or like, again, right, how do you measure that effectiveness of that particular sales enablement initiative?
That's the 1 million question, and you are looking for a golden answer, which is quite complicated to give, but it is possible. Okay, so you have which is the Bible, which is the core tool, which is the CRM. Everything is recorded in there, every single interaction. But then you have an array of tools around Salesforce, which are integrated, which are more for the beginning of the sales cycle, or more like in the middle of the sales cycle, or for closing that sales cycle. And each of those tools, they are giving you a particular metrics. Okay, so for example, we are paying more attention into the areas of improvement or the gap, which is, for example, now the demand generation. This is always something that is going to be on demand. And you need to extract the report from the third tool to understand like how many calls, how many emails, which type of sequences, what type of interaction, and which are the conversion rates. We are running a set of waves of demand generation campaigns at the individual level, okay, at the regional level, because remember, I am covering regionally all the sales teams, but I'm based in EMEA, and I'm focused more in EMEA and also North America, and they are here two different approaches. The metrics that you are gonna apply in North America is more homogeneous approach, and then if you go to EMEA, you need to go case by case, region by region, because there are different approaches in here, depending on the country, depending on the culture, right? So the metrics are around mainly the demand generation, how we can see. So we are implementing one project, and then we test it out with different scenarios. Okay, we need to do it like more in an agile mode to understand which is the path for success. Okay, it's better to do like a short test with, for example, a specific message, a specific channel of communication for a specific persona. Okay, I'm just talking about demand generation, and with a specific language. Okay, and then we test it out. What is the open ratio? What is the response ratio? In which type of email they have responded, and then we learn and repeat. We try to improve that methodology. Okay, then when we are basically bringing an initiative, more at a global point of view, and then we need to go again through like the main KPIs. What is the pipeline that you have generated? How many calls have you had with the customers? And then ultimately, what is the revenue that you have brought to the table?
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So I think there's no clear answer to this question, but again, looking at measuring all the smaller activities that they are doing, and then taking an indicator from there. Okay, this was the outcome before, and this is the outcome after we have rolled out this program, and then what is the difference, or what is the bump in the pipeline, or in the revenue, or in whatever leading metrics that we're talking about.
Exactly.
Got it. The second question, Felix, I have is a lot of people, they look at enablement is just a one-time program, but we know people forget a lot of information. So what do you think is the role of sales enablement when you're not hiring a lot of reps today?
This is very interesting question because the role of enablement has evolved in the last years, okay, and has acquired a different dimension. And it's not pivoting only for sales, but it's pivoting around all the teams who are supporting the sales teams. Okay, so we are part of programs and initiatives which are beyond sales. It's also sales operations, revenue operations, marketing for the demand generation, product, customer success. Because at the end, the role of sales enablement, when I must say this, it's like we are not only trainers, we are not only training, we are not only onboarding. This is one of the many flavors that we can bring into the cake. Okay, but then of course we are starting to support all the initiatives and programs which are around sales, all those things who are supporting sales. Okay, but of course they are. When you're hiring new sales reps, you can focus on what you have and how you can optimize those sales teams. So you can optimize so sales enablement. The main aim, the main objective for sales enablement is to equip the sales teams with the right tools, right resources, and the right training to be at the very best, to have their best possible performance. But training is one of the flavors, okay? It's only one of the hats that we have. So the role of enablement is now pivoting around other projects. We can improve, or we can try to improve the performance of the sales teams by providing like better trainings, better tools, better resources, okay? But at the same time, we are with cross-functional projects with other teams to understand what part of the sales process we can improve with sales operations, or how we can showcase better the demand generation with marketing, or which are the better personas that we can attack in our marketing campaigns, okay? Or for example, regarding product, how can we show sellers the best benefits of this new feature that we just included in our product point of view? So we are a more centric and strategic role. We are in a more evolved and different position since before.
I think again, enablement is not just about training. This is one of the important aspects, but this is not all about training. Is not all about enablement. There are a bunch of other things that we have to do to elevate your sales rep performance. One of the questions, Felix, I have is, a lot of times we run the programs, but then when you have a lot of salespeople, it gets very difficult to drive the adoption, or show the importance of this particular initiative that we are running. And that is where a lot of enablement programs, they lean on the frontline sales managers to drive that adoption, or to drive that behavioral change. So can you talk to us more on that? How does your revenue enablement initiatives, how do you lean on your frontline sales managers to drive the outcome of your initiatives?
And again, that is quite complicated because they are very busy people. Normally in enablement, the learning responsibility, the 70% relies on the seller, okay, which is like self-learning. And there's a wide array of ways how to learn, okay? One-on-one coaching sessions, training sessions, like digital e-learning, ebooks, resources, whatever. Then the other 20% relies on the manager, okay? Manager and peers, which is inside of the team. And the other 10%, okay, comes from one-on-one coaching, from sales enablement, from direct training, okay, which is more customized. Normally, the best way to drive this adoption and new changes, okay, first you need to have the sign-off of the stakeholders every single time when you are going to bring a disruptive change or an improvement, okay, or in processes or in resources. You need to have the sign-off, but at the same time you need to have the feedback from the sellers, okay? And then there's a parallel adoption here, okay? First you need to start with the end user in parallel, like these are going to be the main requirement. These are going to be the guidelines, what you are supposed to do for this new implementation regarding the tool, regarding the process. But then in parallel, at the same time, you need to have like a constant communication with the manager, like we have done this. then this needs to be reinforced in this way. Sometimes it's very complicated. It's very complicated because they don't have the material time to do it. So that's why here sales enablement is getting another hat, and is some kind of like SWAT team trying to support that's sales manager piece.
Mm-hmm. Is it tough? Because I know a lot of frontline sales manager, they are not into, all they care about is not wasting their or maybe sellers should be more focused on the selling activities. So
yes.
how like is it tough to get a buy-in from the frontline sales managers to drive those initiatives?
Yes, it's tough. It's tough. But basically because it's a matter of time, and they are prioritizing which are their main activities. They need to close business, they need to bring more pipe. At the same time, they need to manage a wide team of sellers. In some cases, it's cross-regional. So it's complicated even to get that communication. So that's why we are going into the coaching mode, and we are trying to support that areas, okay, when they are not able, so we are trying to do it. Then, for example, when some, it depends how the quarter goes. If the quarter is doing well, right, so they have more time, they are more relaxed, but if the quarter is getting tough and they are not bringing the numbers, so of course they need to focus on what is the priority, which is the first of all bringing business, and then bringing more pipe with the demand generation. Okay, so that's why it's totally understandable, but that's why we are trying to keep the communication with different lines of with different channels, and we need to be persistent. Okay, but what really matters is like the end user, like the sellers, they are adopting this new or methodology, new process, this new approach.
Yeah, I think again, because for a frontline sales manager, it depends again how the quarter is going, and he or she wants their sales team to be more focused on the selling activities. But then, again, a lot of enablement people that I speak with, they say, okay, what we do is we go with an analysis. We figure out, hey, these are the 10 reps which are not great at probably discovery. If we are able to run an initiative and try to do a behavioral change and run this competency on discovery, we are going to see a bump in this much percentage, or this the win ratio that we'll be able to improve. So, and then we are able to buy in. It's easier for us to get the buy-in from the frontline sales managers. Otherwise, they'll always say that my reps don't have time. So I think it's more about, again, right, you have to do selling at every level. First with the leadership and then with the frontline sales manager, that if we do this, give us your time and we'll be able to try this particular change.
Yeah, it also depends on the size of the organization. Okay, it's easier to handle like more a compact number of teams than like a really wide number of teams. In one of my past companies, I was basically taking care of the onboarding and the professional development of 126 inside sales in Europe, only in Europe, and they were around like 20 managers. Then I was not going to every single manager, but I was going to every single regional director. And then the strategy was first getting feedback from the sales team, like what is needed, what do you think about this? Then quarterly, we were planning some feedback sessions with the regional leaders, and I was proposing, according to the feedback from sellers, this is what I'm proposing. What do you think? Okay, and then they are bringing the flavor. You are trying to amend and apply those changes to customize it for both sides. And then you need to decide what is going to be the modality. The modality, if it's going to be more e-learning, if it's going to be workshop, if it's going to be just basically informative presentation, or like a session where the people, they are not able to interact, right? So at the end, you need to adapt to the ecosystem that you have inside of the company, and also depending on the goals and depending on the resources inside of the company.
Got it. So the next question, I think we already touched upon on this one, but when onboarding sessions and bootcamp training are scarce, so what value enablement teams can provide to the tenured reps? I think you already spoke about it, but what are the kind of programs you run particularly for the tenured reps, which is not your typical training? Like we'd love to know more on that.
Yeah. So again, the sales mentality that I have here, I am bringing every single time, and I think, okay, how can I bring value to sellers in this case? So first, I need to understand like what is their goal. Okay, quarterly, annual goal, also beyond the goal, which are like the revenue, demand generation, which are the other KPIs, other MBOs, okay, other objectives. Then I need to understand what do they have right now to achieve those goals. Third, what do they need to achieve those goals? And then fourth, which is an interesting element, is how they are planning to achieve those goals. What is their strategy? All right. So basically, by understanding these elements, you can provide a better value. Okay, and you can always go around like the advanced trainings. Okay, and the advanced trainings, I am not fond of doing like for large audiences, unless it's some kind of like special release for that everybody needs to be involved, like for really small groups. And actually, the smaller the group is going to be the more beneficial for them, because they can be interacting. I don't call those like training sessions. It's more brainstorming sessions. So then I am giving the option to people to bring their ideas, so they can contribute and they can make an impact, so they can work better. Okay, they can always optimize something. You can always optimize something regarding training around the topic. Regarding those advanced training sessions, it could be around also a specific type of tool, right? Maybe a specific team, specific sales team for from a region, or a specific sales role, they have a gap for adopting a specific tool, which is more at the beginning of the sales process or in the middle of the sales process. So you can provide value by a more customized training for a particular team. Okay, it's more at an advanced training. Then we are going around the resources. That what do they have and what do they need? Okay, are all those resources enough for them right now, so they can get and they can achieve that goal? Or we need to expand those resources, like the playbooks, the competitive intelligence regarding competition, or other sales pitches or battle cards. Okay, or maybe we need to rebrand some of those resources more into a sales language that it can be consumed by them, learned by them, but also at the same time they can share it with the customer. This is sometimes this is something that is working really, really well, because you are creating resources, which is like a two-side effect, both for them for internal consumption, okay, and also for sharing with the customer. In that way, you are aligning the message with both sides. And then regarding the strategy, okay, the strategy is like how they are planning to achieve those goals, and that is coming more into a coaching mode approach, right? You need to go more into one-on-one, like how you are planning to get there. In North America, you can apply like as a general strategy, general approach, or even if you would like to, you can divide it into like the East, West, Central. Okay, but in Europe, you are not able to do this. The maximum that you're able to do is like Nordics, English-speaking countries, France, Central, and then the South. And you need to apply a different approach, a different strategy, because there's a different culture, you know, in all of those. So the complexity is there, but that is the beauty of it, that you have different combinations to catch up the attention of your prospects, of your customers, and to engage better with them.
Got it. Yeah. So I think, again, there are some regional nuances, but the broader plan is to look at what are their goals, and then do they have the resources to meet those goals, be it the internal resources, like you said, the battle card, comp intel, or the external resources to case studies or one-pagers, and then work with them to drive those initiatives. Got it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Felix, one question I have is on this one, is because there's a lot of information a salesperson needs in today's market to close a deal. Like you said, the internal resources and the external resources, and most of them, we train them in the beginning, right? During the onboarding, but then a lot of information is forgotten in the next 1 or 2 hours. So reinforcement of this training knowledge, or we call it everboarding, is one particular, is one thing every enablement person is trying to figure out. So can you talk to us more on how do you reinforce that training, or provide the just-in-time enablement to your salespeople with providing them with the right knowledge at the right time?
Actually, to keep that knowledge is quite complex. We can see that there's like a curve of learning when they are joining, and then a long time they forget, or they go back to their old habits. Okay, we can see that depending on the generation of the seller that we have in the team, they can bring a lot of expertise, but then there's like a challenge for bringing new knowledge, right? If they want to adapt to a new process, if they want to adapt to a new tool, right? At the end, it's not about the generation. At the end, it's around the approach and around the mentality. But what we want to bring here is like, and also this also depends on how stable the company it is regarding the strategies, regarding any changes. The more changes, the more you will need to adapt as a sales enablement team, and also your sales team. So you are bringing more disruption. But the best way to reinforce that knowledge first is to have stability with the strategy, to have stability with the structure, okay, of your sales teams at least for 1 year time, okay. Then after the quarter, everything is changing. After the fiscal year, everything is changing. Okay, so the best way to reinforce it, we need to understand that in this society, the 70% of the population, we are visuals. We are absorbing information better in the visual mode. Then the 20%, we are going more into an auditive mode, okay, by audio. And then the 10% is more in the kinesthetic way, which is with feelings, right? This is coming from NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming, how you are absorbing the information. And we are trying to diversify those elements. So we are making it like more attractive for all our audiences, okay? So maybe a type of knowledge, we are gonna bring it into a workshop session, okay? Then it could be reinforced with job aid, which is more visual, but also in that job aid, we can bring some kind of like auditive elements. But what really matters is with the kinesthetic, with what they are feeling. A feeling can make you remember things for years, right? So with the kinesthetic, we are basically playing more around like with success business cases, bringing someone that explains his or her story about a deal that they closed or a challenge that they had, okay? So they are bringing here, they are generating some kind of like feeling. So we are trying to mix here all those type of elements for reinforcing that knowledge. It's not easy, but you need to find the right formula depending on the region, depending on the persona, and depending on the type of generation that you have in front of you.
Got it. Yeah. So I think this is something every great enablement person knows, that every learner is different. Some might relate with the great visuals, some might relate with the data, some might relate with some other person talking about their success stories. So you have to use all these formats and make sure that you are able to enable again the maximum audience, not leave anybody who is probably more relating to the visuals, or somebody who is more relating to the other person's success story. Yeah, got it. So I think, yeah, that brings us to the end of this particular conversation. It was such an insightful session. So for me, the highlights were, narrowing down on the goals of the company and align all your enablement strategies towards that, because that is the goal of sales enablement, is to bring more revenue or bring more pipeline, and also making sure that we are understanding the nuances of each region as well as each learner, and then creating our enablement programs based on that. And I think the third thing that you spoke about was what are the metrics that you keep to measure the leading and lagging metrics. So these are the three takeaways for me, and I'm sure once we publish this, all the other enablement practitioners are going to find it very useful. Thank you so much, Felix, for sharing your learnings. And so we'll see. We'll post it, and we'll see how it goes.
Thank you very much again for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.